Carl, of course, another home test to come tomorrow, the first of two this week, with Braintree visiting Tyneside on Tuesday night. But first things first, how's everything been in terms of getting the boys back in today and preparing them for that test tomorrow?
So the character of the group is really important at this point. This morning, we obviously addressed the weekend. It was a poor performance. It wasn't really anything, to be honest. So in terms of anything we can recognise, I feel like, and I've said this, and I'll protect the players in this sense, that I think they're working hard, but as individuals, and we're not as a team. If you look at the way Newcastle performed in that game yesterday, I've took a lot out that game, and the culture that Eddie Howe's created there, it's inspiring, to be honest. You see the passion and the determination etched on the players' faces. This morning, we really wanted to try and culturally address the group and try and get some of that into our existing group that goes out onto the pitch. I think we have it with the players who have been here for a longer period of time, but unfortunately aren't available at the minute. But we have to understand that there's a lot of players who need to build those relationships with each other. And this morning we highlighted that, and we just want to see a massive upturn in terms of the character and the approach. Look, we want to try and be better in terms of in possession and all the rest of it. But before we go into tactics or worrying about our in possession player, I just want at least the players themselves and then the fans walking away from the stadium to know and to see that they've given absolutely everything as a group towards these next few games.
Yeah, you allude to the character side of things there. Is that the prime aspect that you're looking for then going into tomorrow's game?
100%. That's absolutely what I want. We had a meeting this morning, and it was a very honest, open meeting. Like I said, took a lot from that game yesterday as well. It just reminded me how important, being a team is, and how you play your role within that. So we just revisited that. You want to see players running for each other. If your mate's on the floor after a foul or whatever, go and pick them up. Little actions like that to develop and make that spirit and that bond greater within the players. We need to try and unearth that again. So it was important to revisit that, and that's exactly what's required over the next couple of games in particular, but for the remainder of the season. We had that, but then I think with all the turnover of player, you lose it a little bit because you get different characters coming in, and you want to make sure that you address it and make sure that the players take responsibility with each other. And they've done that this morning. Even though I left the room after I'd said my bit, they stayed in there for a good half hour just with each other. And I don't know what was said in the meeting. I left them to their own devices, and I think that can only be a positive thing.
Yeah, you touched on it there, though. How important is that in terms of the players taking on that responsibility themselves on that front? Obviously, it maybe needs the manager to spark the conversation, but then, like you say there, the conversation still continues without you necessarily in the room. Yeah,
and that's what you want. You want to create a bond between them. Sometimes I get sick of my own voice. They'll be sick of it. The constant messages, because obviously we want to see something particular play out on the pitch. I'm constantly revisiting things, and I don't want to lose the effect. Basically, I want them to take ownership and just create that culture amongst themselves. So it was really positive that when I left the room that they stayed in there, just with each other, aired a lot of things where they feel like they can be better. And that's great. That's only a positive thing. And of course, it's my job. And like I said to them, it's my job to take the heat for them, take responsibility, because I ultimately pick the team. At the moment, there isn't a massive wealth of options that we've got there, but nevertheless, I'm delivering the messages, and I'm the one that ultimately takes responsibility. But I think it's important that amongst themselves, they just get tighter as a group. And if anything, whatever the product looks like on the pitch, if the quality's not there, the very least I want to see is maximum effort, and for them running for each other and working for each other.
In terms of the actual test itself tomorrow, of course, Braintree, a side recently who've been pretty difficult to beat on a fairly good run of form themselves, although they did have a defeat at the weekend, which obviously they'll be coming and looking to put to bed pretty quickly on Tuesday.
Yeah, I said it before we played them down at their place. They've got a number of players in their squad that I really like. I think they've got some good quality, and they're an interesting side when you watch them. So they'll bring, big challenges for us. But like I said, obviously we want to see a great performance every time the players step out on the pitch. That's what we work towards. But at the very least, I want to see us put them under pressure and really make the night uncomfortable for them, and that comes with being really positive and mindset, body language, all that. I want to see a real togetherness come out in this performance.
And in terms of the fitness picture in general ahead of tomorrow night, how are things looking at the moment? Of course, a positive to see Tyrell Newton get back on the pitch, even if it was only for the 15-20 minutes that you kind of alluded to perhaps being the case beforehand.
Yeah, brilliant to see Ty back. Obviously a crucial player in attacking areas for us. He was in great form before he got his injury, so he's been a big miss, so that was great to see him back. Like I say, I would have liked to have used him for longer, but he's on a specific plan in terms of building his minutes up, so 15 minutes was the maximum that we could give him. It's important that we get that feedback from Fraser and what he feels is best for the lads coming back from these longer term injuries, especially the period now between the end of the season is so crucial. We have to make sure that we look after them, but it was really encouraging to see him back for sure.